This morning I was rereading the book, The Secret Teachings of Plants by Stephen Herod Booner, who I find very inspiring and worthwhile. And the reading this morning was about systems and how systems self-organize, and that is a hallmark of life. The activity of life is to create what are seemingly lifeless bits and pieces, molecules, atoms, the usual detritus floating around the universe. How to take all these apparently lifeless bits, electrons, photons, molecules, atoms, meteorites, planets, suns, and allow them to self-organize into living systems, actual little compartments of self-organized matter that exhibits emergent behaviors. And an emergent behavior is something that cannot be predicted from an analysis of the component parts of the system or the organism. And that is one of the characteristics of life. Another characteristic is all organisms, all systems exist in a state of dynamic equilibrium, which means they're very close to chaos, always. And they are constantly responding to signals, to information from the environment and from their own internal state, in order to deal with fluctuations, perturbations, and oscillations that may cause disequilibrium in the system or the organism. We observe these characteristic qualities that life exhibits as it moves through the supposedly inanimate universe of matter. But we can find no boundary that separates the animate from the inanimate. We only observe that at a certain point in time, inanimate matter becomes a living system. So we know these properties are there, whether they're exhibited or not. So human society is systemic. Okay? It is self-organizing. It exhibits all the emergent behaviors of every system. You cannot analyze the component parts of the system without looking at the whole system at the same time. There is no way, it is impossible and a waste of time to try to separate out the individual little pieces and study them independently of how they are placed in the system. Because the placement of each component relative to all the other components and the relationship between them dictates the behavior of the system. Extracting the individual component, which science likes to do, extracting the individual component and studying it apart from the system gives you false information about the behavior of the part and the whole. So society, human society, is a self-organizing system. It lives in each of us individually, but only lives collectively at the same time. There is no society separate from the individuals that comprise it. And no individual exists in isolation from the society in which it came to be in which it came to be in, and which it now exists in relationship to. Systems exist in dynamic equilibrium. And the key word here is dynamic. The state in which a system exists is always temporary. It is always responding to influences from the environment, changing its internal environment in response, and at the same time affecting the external external, or what appears to be external environment in which it is embedded. But of course, there is no separation between the organism and its environment. They cannot be considered independently of each other. They're one and the same thing, a phenomenon. I want to make sure people can read the sign.
It's a sign.
It's a sign. It's pointing out the way. So the big systems, like universe, as Buckminster Fuller was so wont to describe the totality of reality, and all its component parts cannot be comprehended separately from each other. Sorry. That's just how it's put together. And what governs the universe? Or who governs the universe? The universe is an expression of its creator. Its counterpoint to the intentions of its creator. It exists in response to the will of the creator. The intent of the creator is the universe. I think the discussion of how the universe is actually organized, it's for another time and another place. Now we're just trying to figure out what part we as individuals have to play in how society evolves. Human society, civilization, is a system. It is a complex interaction of component parts, all of which have relative choice in determining their destiny. You need a bath. Human societies are systems that exist in states of dynamic equilibrium. And that means they're very close to chaos all the time. They're constantly adjusting and readjusting their internal environment in response to external stimuli. There's an added complication in human societies that we don't always see in other systems, and that is the components of the human society, the individual humans, have an internal life which can exist almost independently of any external environment. And that internal life is directing their reactions to the external environment. So we can't just look at things like gross domestic product, the sum total of the value of all goods and services created by a society in a given period of time, in order to evaluate whether that society is healthy or not. The only measure we can use to determine if a society is healthy is the well-being of its components. If the individual parts of a human society, the humans, are well and balanced and functioning optimally, then society will be well and balanced and functioning optimally. And if society is not functioning optimally, there is no macro solution There is no gigantic hand that can reach down and manipulate the system from outside in order to restore balance. The balance must be restored to the individual components of the system in order to bring the whole system back into balance. These are what I would say are the laws of nature. And the laws of nature are the habits of the Creator. The Creator has habits. The Creator always does all things well. There is no shadow of imperfection or diminishment or darkness or lack within the Creator. Human societies are systems that exist in states of dynamic equilibrium. And those systems are composed of millions, if not billions, of individual components we call human beings. And the behavior of each of those individual components is fundamentally unpredictable. Yes, we can extract general rules of behavior, we can have expectations, we can do statistical analysis, but when it comes right down to it, concerning any individual human, no statistician or mathematician or physicist can predict with any degree of accuracy the actual response of an individual to repeated stimuli. So, how do things change? Well, first of all, everything's always changing. There's nothing static in universe except what lies outside of universe. And of course, we can't know what that is because it lies outside of universe. And we observe that inside of universe, the all that is, the collective, there is nothing fixed or stationary. The whole shebang is in constant motion and transmutation from one instantaneous segment of its existence to the next instantaneous segment of its existence. So what do we do about all this? Why is this information useful to us at this point in time? If all possibilities already exist, at least in potential, inside of the totality of universe, then it's up to us to decide which possibility we want to experience next. And since society is made up of nothing but a series of agreements among its component parts as to what is worthwhile, what is worthless, then changing those agreements changes the dynamic of the society. So what it comes down to is, if you change your mind, the world you observe also changes to reflect that.
That's Wayne Dyer, isn't it? That said that first.
Oh, I think it's a pretty ancient understanding that goes back to the earliest recordings of philosophers and religionists in the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata and in the Book of Psalms, which many of which were taken entirely from Egyptian culture that pre-existed the Judaic culture by several thousand years. And there were other cultures that have come and gone that understood these truths.
And now we have Kofifi.
Yeah. Coming soon to a YouTube channel near you.
Wow, you can multitask. Sweetie, just so that we don't disappoint, can you say something defamatory, please? Give it a try.
I will say that my landlord has failed to live up to my expectations. I'm deeply, deeply disappointed. No one is beyond redemption. That would be a judgment which only the Creator can make. And he's just not into judging that way, you know?
How do you know?
Because from the Creator's point of view, everything is good. All is good. The all is good. Okay? If it appears that there is error, evil, sin, and iniquity, these are temporary illusions caused by the relative contrast of the perfection of the Creator and the unevolved current status of the creation.
Is that from the Kofifi Revelations?
If you wish, you can appropriate it.
I will. It's in the Kofifi Revelations when it's on my YouTube channel.
Yes,
Very Kofifi.
that's right. How stroking my pussy led me to find God.
It's Tantra Yoga. Can I ask you the tough question?
Okay.
How did you meet your Creator?
In the mirror. I met my Creator in the mirror. When I looked, my Creator was looking back at me. And there was a moment of mutual recognition. Oh, I'm in you, you're in me, we're in this together.
Is she trying to nurse you?
Yeah.
Or are they just settling in there to do that?
Doesn't get any better than this. Talk about your peak experiences. It's certainly evidence that in the midst of chaos, disruption, disorder, pandemonium, panic, fear, anxiety, and, oh my God, what's coming next? It is possible to find balance, equanimity, peace, coherence, even joy.
Aren't you the same guy that is getting threatened with a lawsuit? Why are you not looking completely stressed out of your flippin' mind? Explain yourself. It's all that pussy stroking that you do, isn't it?
Yes. It's a de-stress. How to de-stress. Anyway, there's lots and lots and lots of people that are having plenty of opportunity to contemplate the meaning of their life right now because they're in suspended animation. What was is no more. What will be is unknown. They only have what is. These guys actually go down for a nap.
Oh, God, yes. They're far gone. So what is next for us? Because you basically described our life.
Yeah, I'm looking for a permanent location in these impermanent times. Carrying on with my day. Sorry, guys.